Is the Cardiff City phone in. Thanks very much indeed once again to Steve Wiggy Wiggins for doing a great job in my absence last week. Really much appreciated. On the panel tonight we got David Collins, who writes for Prost International Sport. Good to have you on again, David. Richard Davis in a 1994 City away shirt. I think that's correct, 94-95. And Steve Thomas in the shirt, the greatest shirt the Cardiff City have ever worn in the history of the football club. But there we go. So a nice panel tonight. I want to start off by talking about the Arsenal game. It was a really weird one, actually, Steve. It was a bit of a weird one because it turned out it was almost like a youth match in the end between the two sides, because with the Premiership sides in the Virtu Trophy, obviously they put their under-21 sides out. Interestingly, they're not doing very well. I think it's only West Ham have gone through to the next stage off the bat. We'll have to have a look at that. But didn't our kids do well, because there was such a young team we put out. I mean, I hadn't even heard of some. So we're playing in the squad I hadn't even heard of. It turned into a great match, didn't it?
It certainly did. Really enjoyed that. Richard said before we went on air, it's one of the best games we've seen this season. I think it certainly was. I mean, I think Arsenal would point to the fact that a lot of their players were missing as well, because they had a lot of international call-outs. However, you have to remind that Arsenal have one of the strongest academies of any team, not just in this country, but in Europe and possibly even the world. And they had some very, very useful players. And we all know it was a really good performance that we all really enjoyed. So hats off to them. I don't think any of us were expecting it, frankly, but they turned in a really, really good performance and a good win.
And it was hammering down the rain as well. So it was the pictures of the event, show the kind of the circumstances. Richard, what made it so enjoyable for you?
I just think it was going back to an era where tackles are being made. There wasn't much rolling around. The referee let the game flow. The ball was going out wide. It looks like we got a couple of talented wingers, which, are quite happy to try and beat a man, get a ball in. But even in the conditions, the conditions are quite difficult, probably to pass the ball around, but we look quite comfortable on the ball. And it bodes well, because I think when I saw the lineup, I remember looking at it and thinking, like, we got numbers like 50 onwards, like number 65, and you're just thinking, well, this is possibly going to go one way, isn't it? So it was a nice, pleasant surprise. So obviously, Steve mentioned that, Arsenal have got a wealth of talent throughout their age groups. So, and really, this is the unknown, because these are players, apart from a couple of them, have had some sort of like former first team experience, probably in the FA Cup last year. And a lot of them we haven't seen before. So it was great. I just thought it was a really entertaining game of football. Flow from end to end. And we nicked it at the end. To win 3-1. Well, I think considering we were bottom of the group before, when the game started. It was quite nice to win it, and we've got another home side now, haven't we? So, onwards and upwards.
Did you see
the double is on?
Yeah. Did you see that, David, at all?
I didn't go to the Arsenal game, but I did go to the Newport County game.
Yeah, because that's what's weird. We lost Newport, and then we do this,
I just thought the Newport game would be an interesting fixture. And we had a very strong team out in that game. We finished the game with almost the sort of side we would have out on Saturday against Northampton. But, Newport absolutely battered us and thoroughly deserved to win. And then we play a load of youngsters, some of whom, one or two of whom featured in the Newport game, in particular the fullback, and I apologise to him because I can't remember his name. He's on loan at Merthyr. Yes, he's on loan at Merthyr. He looks a very, a stocky, dyed in a wool, Phil Bater, up and at them fullback. The sort of guy, like me, but without the pace, perhaps, when I played fullback.
That's the only difference.
That's the only difference, yeah. So, we've gone from losing to Newport to a very respectable result against Arsenal. I don't follow this tournament closely over the years. I'm amazed that no Premier League team has ever won this competition. I assume they are allowed to win it, are they, and go to Wembley?
Well, that's what I was saying, David, just now. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think West Ham are the only team that spring to mind who've made it through, so it's a developmental thing, I suppose, for the size. Liverpool as well, yes.
It's always
No,
like
they lost Liverpool, didn't they? Got battered, I think.
The final is always like Peterborough versus Carlisle, isn't it? It's never West Ham under 21s versus, I don't know, Everton or something. And I just find that quite surprising. Maybe it just shows the sort of men against boys, the difference between good youngsters and the sort of blokes who play, for, I don't know, Walsall or Gillingham, who got a bit more street cred about them. I don't know. But yeah, we got Wimbledon at home, is it?
Yeah.
It is Wimbledon. AFC Wimbledon at home.
Well, that's a glamour tie, isn't it?
Pardon?
That's a glamour tie.
Yeah. Well, I think he'll play a similar lineup. It'll be interesting. Like, the further we go into the competition, will he? It depends whether it jeopardizes the promotion campaign.
Yeah, well, it's interesting actually, Dave. Maybe we'll spin around on this. It's quite interesting to me. I tried to watch it. I was in a village house in Portugal, and I tried to watch it. I'm just like buffering like crazy. Like I couldn't watch it, but I was just excited by the scorelines coming in. I gave up a 2-1. I just couldn't get it anymore. But we're going to talk about Wales a little bit on later on, and also about the Wales under 21s and whatever, which a lot of Cardiff City players are linked in it. And what is how excited are you? And maybe we'll spin around on this, David, in terms of the young players that are coming through. I mean, do we take the fact that we beat Arsenal, which Steve said it's got to be right, one of the strongest development teams in the UK. They've got to be, because it's Arsenal. I mean, it's are we still excited and thinking that moving forward, the great days are kind of coming with our current stock of youngsters?
Well, we are, but I was listening to Jason Perry on Radio Wales, and he made some very sensible points, as he often does. And he said the guys are learning on the job. Ordinarily, the likes of, I don't know, Dylan Lawler, let's say, Kean Ashford, would be out on loan at League One and League Two clubs. But now they are on loan at League One and Two clubs because they're playing for League One, they're playing for us. And they're learning on the job, and they've got to make mistakes. Part of me wishes we had, I don't know, a Steve Morrison or, dare I say, a Tom Lockyer, in the heart of things. But then would that detract from the dynamic of it all? Because all these kids are, you don't win nothing with kids, but all these kids are growing up together. And if we can be patient for a year or two, maybe we will be the greatest team in football the world has ever seen. But I mean, we had 5 players in that Wales squad on Saturday.
Yeah.
Two of whom finished the game.
Yeah. Steve, do you watch a lot of the cities under younger age range matches?
I don't, which is why I was so pleasantly surprised at the performance against Arsenal. I think to come back to the question that you asked, Steve, I think it is very encouraging that group played so well and played so well together as a team. They clearly knew their roles. They clearly knew what they were supposed to be doing. And as you said, Rich, as well, the way that the tackles were flying in, they really wanted it. They were committed to it, and they played really well. I think the future is bright. I think they've got to be taking the chance. As you say, they are. I agree with what David said there about Jason Perry's comment. They are very much learning on the job. But you can't knock the fact that we are a League One team and we had 5 players in that Wales squad on Saturday.
Richard, what's your thoughts on the City kids?
I think it's quite refreshing, isn't it? Because for the last, can't remember when we sort of. I think the last time we brought a crop through was probably in the late 90s of youngsters that went on to play regular, for the time, like Scott Young, Robert Earnshaw, Jarman, and a few others that sort of like made their way through. And now it looks like we got like this conveyor belt of sort of like talent, as long as it's managed properly, and our expectation. I'm agree with Steve. I think sometimes you've got to lower your expectations in terms of what these kids are able to do. Well, as Jason Perry said, they are learning on the job. And that's probably very similar to when he played with Nathan Blake and Damon Sill. When we had the sort of like the class of 92, 93, didn't they? They were chucked in because of the situation of the club. And I suppose there's similarities there that we are now dipping in, and we are using our youngsters. And we have got some talented kids there, real talented footballers. We just need to be patient. We just need that little bit of experience around them. Someone like Sean Morrison would be perfect to play alongside someone like Dylan Lawler, but then he's got Will Fish, and Will Fish has been excellent this year, isn't he? Yeah. We can't forget that Will Fish has had, he's not a kid. He's still quite a relatively young professional. Yeah. I just think we probably need more in the midfield. We just need someone who can just sit there, because our midfield tends to part like the waves, doesn't it? When opposition teams attack us, the midfield sort of like goes. They tend to just bypass our midfield at times, and then it's like shooting practice for Trot.
I don't want to come on to that with David a bit more in a second, but before just go to David, so I want to talk to David a bit more about Wales as well. Dave, just say something. Richard mentioned something just before the show I wasn't aware of, which is sad news relating to a former Cardiff City player. Richard.
Rob Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very sad. News came out today that he'd sadly passed away, age 78. And obviously we had him at the back end of his career, didn't he? But he was a stalwart for Wales. He won 50. I think he won 50 caps in total. But he had a good career, at Swindon, and he went to Derby, and he won a title at Derby. When it was hard to win leagues. He was unfortunately. I suppose his spell with Cardiff was marred a little bit by injuries. But I don't think we ever saw the best of him, did we? We had 4 years, and I think he made just under 100 appearances.
I disagree. When in my first book, Born Under the Gradient Star, still available on Amazon, I selected my all-time favourite Cardiff City 11, and I had Ron Thomas in that sort of, sweeper role. I think I had Phil Dwyer at centre half and Rod Thomas, because he was so cool and cultured in compared to the likes of, Dwyer, Jason Perry, Lyndon Jones, and I thought he was a wonderful player. I didn't know he'd passed away. That's very sad. I even went to Somerton Park to see his debut for Newport County against a team I don't remember, because he was such a good player. He was from Glencorrwg. I always remember that. Trying to type Glencorrwg, but that is sad news. He was I think they called him the Fox.
He was a cultured centre half, wasn't he? He's one that could pass a ball. He used to be very comfortable bringing the ball out. I can remember.
But he would have played at Wembley 77, Anfield 77. In that you're talking about that great shirt there. He would have played in that famous Wales red, yellow, and green kit. A wonderful player. 50. Yeah. I didn't know that. That's sad news.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it either. So obviously, our thoughts with Rod's family at this time. Going back to the the Virtu Cup, it gets spelt about 17 different ways every time you see it. We wouldn't have even known about it if we were in League One. What do you think about what BBM said, David, about essentially the youngsters have earned the right to have the King's ransom in terms of starting again next time? Would you do that or not?
Well, it's a way of giving them competitive first team action in a game that means a little something.
The final means something, doesn't it?
Wearing a shirt of Cardiff City. They're not playing in a friendly behind closed doors against Oxford under-21s. I mean, that game for Newport against Newport County, there were 7,000 fans at that game. Lots of those kids wouldn't have played before a crowd of 7,000. And even the Arsenal game, I think, was about 3,000, was it? So it is good hands-on live experience. If they lose, it kind of doesn't matter. But it's it's a Cardiff City game, so you've got to step up. I think it's probably good experience, providing you don't put too much hopes on trying to win it. And we will get to the final and take 40,000 to Wembley, like, I don't know, Birmingham have done.
Birmingham did last year against Peterborough, yeah.
Yeah, and they lost. Other big clubs who Portsmouth over the years, I don't know, Sunderland probably. I think Sunderland and Portsmouth would have filled that ground. So if we get to the final and play, I don't know, insert your name of a large northern team, Wigan, let's say, then there might be a good occasion. And you don't get anything for winning it really, and it's the kind of competition you don't want to be in, because we want to be in the Championship. But if we are where we are, let's try and make the best of it, and let's try and turn it to our advantage by giving these kids, proper match day competitive experience.
So let me just ask you about. There's some great comments coming in already. Thanks a lot for that. Tell us, just for those people who don't know, tell us a little bit about Prost International, Dave, because it's quite an interesting kind of setup, isn't it?
It's a website that primarily provides development opportunities for young trainee journalists, journalism students, etc. So they do two things really. First of all, they provide a platform for their writing, but also they teach the kids how to write sports reports, so that for example, you start off with a headline, James clinches narrow victory for Wales. So if the editor draws a line under that, at least you've got it in. And then you have a subheading that say, blah, 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 Jordan James gained a narrow victory, blah, blah, blah. So-and-so won his 50th cap, and they'll be without Dean and Amberton in the next game. And then you construct again little things like, punctuation, use of capital letters, spacing your paragraphs out, because everyone reads their internet stuff on the phone now. They don't sit at home on the laptop or read a book. It's on the phone, so it's got to be digestible. Little how to do it tips like that. And as I say, they provide a platform. The site has North American roots. And when I was very lucky enough to go to Qatar for the World Cup for Prost International, they said, right, you can be our man in Qatar, but I watched Wales against USA. I commented on a Canada game on TV. I watched the Mexican press conference.
Fantastic, really, isn't it?
It was absolutely fantastic. And this very lovely Australian journalist said to me on occasion, why don't you come with me to our game? We're playing, I don't know, Senegal or something. And I said, much as I wanted to go with this lovely Australian, I did not have the energy. I was completely exhausted. Argentina I watched, Uruguay I watched, because they've got North American roots. One of my most enjoyable experiences was when I was on holidays in Chicago. I was there for the time of the Super Bowl. So I covered the Super Bowl, but from the perspective of a UK football fan. And that was a really, really good experience. I was sat in the bar with, NFL fans, and they were introducing me to bits and pieces of the game. And I was telling them about, soccer culture. And it was a really, really good experience. So it's a very good site. If any of you have got any, contact Steve, perhaps, with youngsters who are looking for a platform, I would certainly recommend Prost.
Right.
I mean, they get a pound of flesh off you. Don't get me wrong. And I don't get paid, but I did not pay any money for any of my tickets for the World Cup in Qatar.
I guess sent to Qatar is not a bad thing, is it?
I was in the press box at Wembley for Wales and England.
Yeah, fantastic. I think it's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
Good to hear about. And obviously, I did have a link with the university, so I did try and set things up there. But we'll leave that one for now. Steve, if I come across to you, because it's interesting to hear about Prost International. I didn't know, a lot of people don't know much about it. It's nice to hear about this kind of culture of sports stuff going on. The Chelsea games come up from Chris. Does anybody know? Is that are we starting to sell tickets for that? Is it starting to bubble up at all?
Yeah, I've ordered my tickets for it. I think last time I looked, I think we'd sold 9,000 tickets because it was still limited to season ticket holders for 2 tickets each, and for members to get a ticket for themselves as well. So I think the criteria is going to be expanding shortly. So maybe a good question to look at the answer for next week, I think.
Okay, and sticking with the because obviously that's a few weeks ahead, but it's a great draw. It's an exciting thing for the club, I think. Steve, we were talking a little bit earlier. I watched the Wales under-21s again. David probably has some thoughts on this in a sec, but the Wales under-21s were comfortably bottom of their group, and they were getting battered by Bosnia. Even though they looked like they looked like the better side, but it just they couldn't seem to put the ball in the net. And quite a lot of that squad are Cardiff City players. For anyone who has seen any of those matches, it struck me as it was like some similarities really with City, like lots of possession, and then no kind of real end product. But they're also interesting. They're playing 3 at the back and playing with wing backs and whatever. So it's kind of interesting. But it just struck me as a bit of a kind of dichotomy that we all excited about the City youngsters, and there they are, quite a few of them in that World Under-21, and unfortunately that team is faring quite badly. I suppose that's again, Steve, how tactics plays into the best bunch of players in the world. If you don't play them the right way, maybe, I don't know.
It is. I mean, I think you also have to look. I mean, to come back to what you said about Arsenal as well. Arsenal, as I say, got one of the best academies in the country, if not in Europe, if not the entire world. So you have to look at who we're playing against here. I think Craig Bellamy's also said that he likes the way Cardiff City are playing because it suits him for the way Wales are playing. But I have to. I'm saying we'll probably come on to this later on. But after the Blackpool game, I was very, very concerned about how we were playing a bit sort of gung ho. Yes, you go in with the wing backs bombing forward, but the gaps that were appearing were hugely great concern to me. And I think if Wales under-21s are playing something similar, where they end up chasing the game and you don't shut your back door, then you are going to take a bit of a pasting on occasion.
That's essentially what was going on. I think, just a bit exposed at the back,
Yes, I think if on the Cardiff City front, if Nathan Trott did actually save a few one-on-ones and did one fantastic save from the training ground free kick where Blackpool played the ball to the player on the edge of the box. And why do we never pick up that player on the edge of the box? It keeps happening over and over again. Ball played across, step over, shot, which Trott just managed to turn over. So again, we've got to look at how we're chasing games, I think.
And again, Richard, it's that thing with with tactics like modern day football. I know it's a really old person's perspective from an old person, but like the fashionable style that we play football in these days. Like effectively, you're playing with kind of a 2-man midfield, sort of. So there's just so much space around it. So it just can leave you vulnerable.
That's why I just think you do need someone who can just sit in the middle of the park, who can just basically dictate things, because I think we are, whilst we play some nice football, we overplay at times, I believe, especially when we're in the opposition box. We play it when striker can get a shot away or midfielder can get a shot on target. At least, but we'll play that extra ball and then we kind of lose. And then kind of the impetus has gone, hasn't it, in terms of the attack? So we've gone from one way of playing to another way of playing. Yeah, the possession football's great. Don't get me wrong, but there are times when you play possession football. If you look when we played against Wrexham, it was brilliant.
Yeah,
it was such a great watch. And then then we go to Blackpool, and it's like a performance like we had against Bolton. It's just So I think certain teams are sort of like working us out, aren't they? They're working us out how we play. And they know how to nullify us, and it's up to Mr. Barry Murphy to try and get sort of like have something plan B up his sleeves on how we're going to start attacking teams, and then taking our opportunities. Because I think when we equalised against Orient, we went down the other end, and then we scored again, didn't we? I know it's just a great move of football, slow move. Capaccio ball back, and then Salek puts it in the back of the net, and we go 4-3 up. And that's we've gone from 3-2 down to 4-3 up in the space of 5 minutes. But I just think we are very much, as Steve said, we are very open at the moment, especially in midfield. And this is probably where maybe he could push Chambers and put Chambers, who plays just in front of the back four, to protect the back four, because Chambers is good at breaking up football play. And his best position last season was when he was moved to
I
the
agree.
midfield.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, that was suggested on the show the other week that we should play him. It was either Chambers or Wintle. I think he just does that. Does that holding role just in front of the back four. I think maybe to tighten things up, but more of a tweak than David maybe to tactics, because do you know what I mean? We do look a bit overrun at times, don't we?
We seem to be unable, as I think Richard was saying just now. Some teams have found this out, particularly at the Cardiff City Stadium, and the likes of Burton would have just put 2 blocks of 4 up and say, well, come on, then break us down. And we don't have the wit or the intellect or the the maneuverability to unpick that, and that's happened in a couple of games. Interestingly, you said about Bellamy liking the Wales style, the Cardiff style. Excuse me. He played 3 at the back on Saturday, really, with Lawler.
Yeah, he did.
Lawler,
very similar to 21s.
Yeah, I know it was a bad example because they weren't under pressure defensively in the main, but I think teams have slightly found us out at home, and we're doing. It seems a while since we won at home, and our away form is slightly better, but that's dragging his heels a bit lately as well. So I like these holding midfield players. We got Wintle, Turnbull, and Chambers, and you could maybe throw Joel Colwell into that mix, but we don't seem to have got the blend. We don't seem to have worked out which 2 of those 4 fit best if you're also going to have Ruben Colwell in this free number 10 role, or if he's played in the Verdun Cup, the free number 66 role. And then up front, I guess you've got to have Salah, winger. The one, when we were saying about the likes of Morrison or Tom Lockyer, I think the one piece of the jigsaw that they're missing is an actual striker to grab goals, and this is where Robinson comes in. I think, the likes of an Earnshaw, a Chopper, or a Caldale, if you go back far enough, Tony Evans, even Steve in that shirt. Someone to grab a goal in the 6-yard box. And then that would settle the team down, and then the likes of Colwell, Isaac Davis are playing against tiring defenders who are leaving gaps because they're chasing the game. And a confident Ruben Colwell in League One would be quite an asset, as opposed to chasing the game because we can't break down, Orient or somebody.
Were you pleased to see Ruben get a bit of game time for Wales?
I was. I think that'll be good, and is good for his confidence. I don't know why Bellamy doesn't fancy Colwell. I've heard various stories, but I'm glad he did come on, and he had a shot which on another day could have gone in.
Salacious gossip is always good, David. If you have any.
Well, the keeper parried it away. I don't know whether Colwell was involved in some of these bullying allegations. I don't know that. That's a whisper I heard, but I don't know whether that's a factor. But I was pleased that he did reward him. I'm not quite sure who he's going to go with tomorrow, because we're missing an awful lot of players, aren't we?
Well, apparently somebody said Rambo's available, so I can't see that happening. So apparently, according to Chris, I hadn't noticed that, but he hasn't really played much and whatever. So I think it's fairly unlikely. But be around the squad, but whether he'd be in it, I don't know.
He's not in the squad, so he can't be. Surely.
I know, but that's what Chris is saying. He's apparently available. And maybe he means available, as in he hasn't got a club, as well.
Oh, kind of City.
Yeah, generally available. Yeah. Well, I suppose it does pertain to Wales and Cardiff, doesn't it, going forward? really, whether he should even get back in the Wales squad in the future. Steve, well, let me ask you about that one first, and then I got a follow-up question. Yeah, sorry, Chris, you meant for City, yeah. So he means obviously he's available as a player. So Steve, with Aaron, talking about Arsenal, of course, Aaron Ramsey. Do you see him coming back into the Wales picture and the Cardiff City? I mean, the Cardiff City picture I think is very unlikely because of the circumstances, maybe the departure. But how do you see the future for Aaron Ramsey?
Right. First of all, so if I say, Miles, that question, I would like to say that he's been one of the most fantastic players we've produced over the last 20 to 30 years.
Yes, absolutely.
And did go on to do some fantastic things. However, I don't think he should come back now. He was very when he played for us the last few seasons. He was fantastic. However, he did get injured an awful lot. And I don't think he's going to get anywhere near the Wales squad, given the time between now and the World Cup, because he's not going to have anything near a season under his belt, not even a half a season under his belt. I don't think, having now left Mexico. So I'm afraid, taking my hat off to his career previously, it's a no from me for both Cardiff City and Wales.
Okay, and so. Which leads me on to the second question I was going to ask you. So, yeah, I think it's fairly evident that Craig Bellamy has a good relationship, friendship, and respect for Aaron Ramsey. Moving on to Craig Bellamy, there seem to be mixed feelings about him as a kind of personality and as a football manager. What's your thoughts on Craig Bellamy and the job he's doing with Wales, Steve?
I think he's doing a good job with the squad that he's got. We are unfortunately always comparing to our golden generation from 2016, and I think that it's really, really difficult. If you compare to where we were 30, 40 years ago, it's a completely different scenario. It's not going to be the same position as before. I genuinely think we'll do very well to qualify for the World Cup. I think tomorrow's going to be a very tricky game with North Macedonia not having lost any games. They've drawn twice with Belgium. So I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get into that playoff place. And I did read on the internet this week that if there'd be 4 pots for the playoffs, if we do come second, we'll be in pot 2 and we'll play at home against the team in pot 4. If, however, we are in pot, if however we don't win tomorrow night, we'll be in pot 4 and we'll have an away game against a pot 1 team. So it's going to be very, very difficult if you don't win tomorrow. And
do you know, maybe it's an unfair question, do you know the likely teams that we might come up against then? Say for example, if we win,
it's to be determined at the moment. It looks like Italy might be in there, for example, if we were to lose it. One of the teams I noticed in pot 4 is Albania.
Yeah, I think they gave England a good game, though, didn't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Another one I think could be Bosnia, but I wouldn't want to stake my life on that. So
yeah,
I don't think there's going to be any sort of pushovers in it. Whoever we get.
Yeah, and the other thing with firstly, Richard, any thoughts on Craig Bellamy?
I think he's done a reasonable job. I think he's like the little bit of the honeymoon period is well and truly over now, isn't it? In terms of some of the results that we've had, we've lost a few. We've lost a couple of games now, haven't we? And he seems stuck on. He wants to play one way, and that's how he wants to play. I just think we have got some. He can't find a place in the team for Brennan Johnson, who Tottenham paid 50 million for.
Yeah,
and he can't find it. He can't find a place for him. I don't know. I think tomorrow night's game is going to be very difficult because they're a good side. They beat recently last. I think their previous campaign they beat Italy home and away, didn't they? So they're no pushovers. I think we'll probably get a draw. I would say.
The draw means
a draw will be enough, won't it?
It's enough, but that then going back to what Steve said, that gives us an away tie to the next time if we don't win.
It's enough, not enough.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on it, Dave? Because you follow the Wales stuff really closely.
Well, one of the advantages of being with Prost is that I now have my foot in the camp with the FAW media. guys. So I do get invited along to these. Excuse me, my iPad is in need of recharging, which is why I had to fiddle
We all
about
need
with this.
recharging, David.
We all need recharging on a Monday night. So I get invited along to the press conferences to launch the team, etc., announce the squad, and Bellamy comes across very, very well. I mean, after the Canada game at the Swansea.com, he said, "Look, we could play against, I don't know, Belarus, for example, and with all due respect to Belarus, what would we gain from playing in that game? If we get to the World Cup, we're going to be playing the likes of Canada, who are going to be in with a shout and one of the top seeds. So we're better off. Why wouldn't you play against the best teams?" And the game against England, which many people raised their eyebrows at that fixture, he said, we got a chance to play against the best team in the world and assess ourselves against the best team in the world. And in the first quarter of an hour, England really did look like the best team in the world. And I thought Wales made a bit of a fist of it come the end of the game. And, if the odd chance would have gone in, it might have been 3-1 or maybe even 3-2. So do you learn more by playing against those teams than a victory against, I don't know, let's say Belarus or, Bulgaria or something? So my opinion of Bellamy is, to use an expression somebody just used, mixed. Unfortunately, you mentioned 2016. We don't have that full of riches. We don't have a goalkeeper really that plays regular football at all. Darlow occasionally for Leeds, and then after that, it's someone who doesn't play for Everton, someone who doesn't play for Sheffield United, and if the likes of, I mean, we massively missed Kiefer Moore on Saturday. We probably would have been 3-0 up at half time with Kiefer Moore. But we're going to be missed. You take out, Ben Davis, let's say Roden, Joe, Ambatu, and all of a sudden you fill in the gap with Josh Sheehan of Bolton Wanderers. With all due respect to Josh Sheehan, is he an international footballer? So Bellamy is really he's doing his best with an extremely limited pool of resources. It reminds me of a little of the John Toshak era when Tosh had to throw in the youngsters, and then we saw the fruits of that policy for the next
we did
10,
and
15 years.
I mean, there's a couple of things there I want to ask you about. What firstly with John Toshak, he's an interesting character. He's an ornery, is a good word, a kind of character. Can be quite terse, quite difficult, diffident kind of character. But I think he was kind of revolutionary, really, in the way that he approached the Wales job. And I do think we're reaping the benefits of that, years later. Not everyone's cup of tea, in inverted commas, John Toshak. But the same also applies to Craig Bellamy. We don't know the history of actually what happened at Cardiff City, but some things didn't go as planned, and there has been some sort of aftermath with it. But again, he can be, and I agree with you. In press conferences, it comes across really well, but he has a kind of a reputation that travels with him a bit, David, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, he's played for some of the top clubs in Great Britain, and he's been sold by them as well. And I know he had an injury crisis, but he's played for, I don't know, Newcastle, Celtic, Liverpool, Man City, Cardiff City, and he's been sold by them all. So from a fan's point of view, he reminds me of Robbie Savage. Great if he plays for you, but then you do wonder if he could start a fight in a phone box, I think.
Allegedly.
Well, whilst I think he's matured now, and it's just, you listen to him in press conferences and with the media, it would be interesting to see what the younger players think of him, because
they're pretty scared of him.
Well, probably it is, and
not such a bad thing, really. Yeah, it's not such a bad thing. But it's interesting, Steve, isn't it? You know, David. You know, years ago I've done that kind of stuff. When you're in a press conference and you're right there. You know, the mystique isn't there. The person's right in front of you talking away, so you get to kind of see the real person to some extent. And he does. He's very eloquent, isn't he? He knows his football.
Yeah.
He's passionate. You know, do you know where I'm going with this, Steve? With Craig, I mean, in the future, I'll just throw it in there because there's a phone, and somebody's got to throw it in there. In the future, Steve, you know, maybe there might be a time when Mr. Bellamy might be, you know, managing a certain club called Cardiff City, even though he's not a fan, apparently.
Well, yes, allegedly not a fan. However, he did come to us twice on loan. When we got to the Premier League the first time, and then he came back again and got us close. I think, yeah, it's a tricky one. I think he would be a good manager. Obviously, we don't know what happened when he left the club. We don't know if he could come back. Well, I understand that he wouldn't want to come back under the current regime, but we'll have to see how that goes in future. But yes, I wouldn't be averse to it. He's certainly done his time under the likes of Vincent Kompany and the clubs that he's been involved in. So I think he could be good for some time in the future. Yeah.
Richard?
Well, you never say never in football, do you? Really? I like the thing about Tosh, because I think he was being overlooked for what he started, because I think he started the whole rebuild of Welsh football. Because when we look at that team that started against Slovakia, or that squad that started against, was it like 10 of the players he'd actually capped in that squad, you know, and it's kind of forgotten in relation to what he did. Obviously, if you throw your hat in and you play a young side already, you know, and that side is then able to build together, then we reap the rewards, didn't we? We reap the rewards in 2016. You know, it needed other people to take it further for him, like what Gary Speed did, and then obviously Coleman did all right off the back of it. But going back to Bellamy, he's a bit of a Marmite character, isn't he?
Yes.
And would he have the fire to manage Cardiff City? I think he probably would do. But he obviously he has come out. He said he's not a fan. He's never been a fan of Cardiff City. He grew up supporting Liverpool. So,
but why does he need to say that? You know, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know why he needs to say it. Probably whether he said it more to say, look, because he's the Welsh manager, and you think, well, hang on a sec, I need to be a little bit impartial here. I don't want to upset fans from other clubs as well, that I'm not a Cardiff fan. Then fair enough. But he did. I don't think you really need to say that. You're a national manager. You don't need to say who your allegiances are, is it? So, but he is a bit of a Marmite character, isn't he? But he's sort of like probably we've seen a different sort of like Craig Bellamy as a manager, haven't we, in terms of his temperament? Because when he's a player, he was very fiery, very feisty. And then when things have gone against us on the pitch, or VAR decisions have gone against us, he's been relatively calm.
Yeah.
But you know, and which is I've got to be honest, has surprised me quite a bit.
Well, there's a comment just coming in from Reese's. Good comment. I'll just stick with you, Richard, for now. I think it's well documented. When he left, regarding bullying claims with the regime, and Reese makes the point that he'd like him to go and try his hand, you know, another club, football, you know, a league club, before coming to Cardiff. Would that kind of make sense, Richard? Do you think?
Well, I think he's done his apprenticeship, hasn't he? He did his apprenticeship. Yeah. He's been at Burnley with Vincent Kompany. He's followed Kompany around. So I think he's done his apprenticeship. If we're really going to go down that route, well, would we appoint Barry Murphy in the summer? He hasn't had. He's only experienced as a manager.
Murphy, David, Rochdale, wasn't it? You know.
So I think sometimes you've got to take that. Right. You've got to take that chance, haven't you? Not all great footballers or fiery make good managers. You know, they're few and far between, aren't they? So I'm a little. I think if the opportunity came and he was appointed, I think we'd get behind him, wouldn't we? So I just think it's. I wouldn't think you have to go away and manage another club before you come and manage us. We're not that big a club you know, in the excellence of sort of like even in the Championship, you know, we're a reasonable sized club in the Championship. There are some big clubs in the Championship, aren't there? So I don't think as a manager you have to go away and manage another team before you come and manage. I think we've shown that this year by giving Barry Murphy the chance, haven't we? So
yeah, of course,
I wouldn't agree with that, to be honest.
Okay, so Barry Murphy this week was linked speculation, linking in with other clubs. That's always going to be the case, you know. Because even now we're still David, we're still fifth in the table with a game in hand. Stevenage play, I think, later in the week. If they win, that will change. But at the moment, we're right up there, despite a fairly disappointing recent spell of form. One for you, David. I know you're a massive fan. Great, I think, to see. I said about the Wales under-21s, and there's like one or two players in that squad from Cardiff City who would be in that under-21s, but they're kind of too good for that, and they're playing for the senior squad. And one of them, of course, is Mr. Lawler, you know, who just looks so comfy, doesn't he, playing at international level?
I posted something on our WhatsApp group recently from no less a strong body of opinion than Blokes Up the Pub. And
good. That's good. Good source. Yeah.
And I said Dylan Lawler's the best player in the world. Simple as that. He is superb. He is absolutely superb. I know he was untested against Liechtenstein, but you know, Bellamy had the confidence in him to put him in. I think Lawler alongside Joe Roden would be a good defensive.
Look pretty good, don't they?
For Wales, and Lawler alongside Will Fish or Will Puscott, as I've heard him referred. That's a good combination. I think Joel Bagan is very underrated. He seems to go in under the radar. He's very underrated. My only note of caution in that, and Trott, well, he just defies belief sometimes. He is. If it wasn't for Trott, we'd be about 11th in the league. But my only note of caution is the right back spot. I want to like Capaccio because he's Welsh and he plays for us. But he just, I don't know. He's great going forward against a team that we're beating, but defensively, meh. And he gets caught out of position. I'm not sure. I think NG is a better fullback along the line of Spears. We were earlier, so I think that's the only chink in the back four. You can also slot Chambers there if you need to. We've talked about the midfield, and we do need this. If we could sign even someone like Paul Mullen in January, you know, just to score us, you know, I know 10 goals a season or something. Or the guy that Will Evans from Newport. I'm not quite sure when he's. Did he go to Mansfield?
He went to Mansfield. He's at Mansfield, isn't he?
I think he's still chicken in with the goals. One of those, you know, like when we signed Stant back in the day.
What a signing he was, eh?
Very like Stant and Bob Atton, wasn't it? When we brought Bob Atton in as well back in 82, 83. So and after Christmas, he chipped in with 9 or 10 goals.
Yeah, this is a crucial transfer window for us for sure.
Well, let's talk about that, because I'll start off with David. We'll swing around in it. So transfer window is about 6 weeks away, thereabouts. You know, start of January. If you could bring in, so you've kind of answered it, David, but would you maybe want to briefly add to it? You're saying more backup up front, someone like an experienced head to chip in with a few more goals. Is that what you're saying? Is our most urgent thing?
Yeah, someone who is used to. When John Toshak took Swansea City up, he bought players to get them out of the division they were in, and he went up and up and up. So what we need is somebody, an experienced League One striker. I'm not saying we sign him, but I was hearing about a guy that used to play for. I can't think of his name now. He's 40 and still playing. He used to play for Bristol Rovers and various other teams. You know. If I could remember his name, it'd be a better story. But you know, somebody who's played at this level, playing for teams, the sort of you know, a championship version of Kevin Phillips, for example.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie Curitin's still playing, isn't he? He's about 70 now.
Yeah, not the point. That
Yeah, but I know what you mean.
That you know, striker who'll tip him with a few goals, a bit of a name in the dressing room to inspire the youngsters. At the moment, they're learning off each other, which is great if we've got the patience.
So Richard, just since you came in, and I go to Steve then. You know, firstly, bringing in an old head just doesn't seem a very Barry Murphy thing to do, I don't think. But I do see the logic in it. Bob Hatton was an inspired signing, you know, Hatton and Hammerman and all that. If we could bring in, you know, sort of 2 or 3 positions that you think we could do with beefing up in January, what springs to mind for you? Richard?
I would bring in a fullback, a right back.
Yeah.
I would bring in someone who could play in the centre of midfield. He can put his foot on the ball, and just someone who can just control things. And I'll bring in a goal scorer, someone who score goals, poacher in the box, because that's what gets you out of this league, isn't it? Someone's going to chip in half a dozen goals between Christmas and the end of the season. And I think that's what we need.
Steve?
I think just to come onto the right back position, I think I heard it said before about players you've had on loan at right back before, and indeed both sides of the full back equation. If you had a left back or a right back who could act as a wing back and defend, they wouldn't be playing in League One. They'd be playing in the Premier League. Above, because Capaccio is absolutely tremendous going forward. Link up play he's been doing with Amari Kellerman on occasions has been absolutely superb, but defending leaves a bit to be desired. Now, if we're going to dispense with a player like Capaccio, who obviously Bellamy likes, he's in the Wales squad and he does look very, very good coming forward. Yeah. We got a bit of a choice here. We had a few years ago, we had Lee Peltier, who was an absolutely really good fullback, but not very good at going forward and didn't really suit the particular types of games. Whereas you also had similar players. Like, I think when Jamilu Collins came in, we were very impressed with his first few games. Unfortunately, he got injured very early on, very seriously at West Brom, and we didn't see very much of him after that. So I think my jury's a bit out on that, because I don't think we should be getting rid of Capaccio. I think Capaccio gives us an attacking option, but I take the point, we do need to defend better there. Even leaving aside the fact that we hadn't actually conceded, we only conceded 1 goal from open play away from home this season until Blackpool, which was the last minute goal at Bolton. The only other goal we conceded away was at the penalty at Stockport. So similarly, David, you said we've not won any home games, but we lost to Burton. But also, you know, we beat Leyton Orient, and then we had the 2-1 win as well against in the other home game. But I think that a box-to-box midfielder we would need, and I think if you look at back to how we've done in 83, we brought in Bob Hatton, 92-3 we brought in Phil Stand. If you have a look at the way both leagues went, we were sort of mid-table. Or just a little bit above in both those seasons, and then we really pushed on after Christmas because of the players we brought in, and we're in a much better position we were in either of those seasons. And I think it would be such a shame now if we don't make those changes, we don't push on, and we don't get promoted at the end of the season without going to the playoffs.
I just see Capaccio being moved forward, because I think he can play out on the right hand side of midfield.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
think he's more a winger than a fullback.
Yeah.
But then when you used to have sort of like when you used the old 4-4-2, whoever used to play on the right hand side of midfield would always drop back on you and protect your fullback. So you'd always you double up effectively when the opposition are attacking down. They obviously see that, they see our left, our right hand, well, their left hand side when you got facing Capaccio as our weakness. And a lot of the balls they tend to attack him more than anything else. Everything seems to come down the left hand side when Capaccio is playing.
And if you put him in midfield alongside any two of, say, Wintle, Turnbull, and Chambers, then there's your three in midfield. Let's say we've got to play Ruben. All of a sudden, that only gives you two other strikers, which I guess is Salak, and then I know Ashford, Davis, and don't forget Tanner as well, who's probably going to come back in January.
Yeah. Well, I just think he could be, 'cause I heard you say just now, but who's he going to replace? I mean, if you think we're still playing, effectively, we're playing 4-3-3, actually, kind of. And so, there is an argument that he could play, as part of that front three, and maybe cause havoc down the right,
He's really good going forward, though, isn't he? He's pretty tricky going forward. Plus, his delivery's quite good.
Yeah, he's got a good engine, but defensively, as Steve was saying, he gets caught out of position a bit.
He does, yeah. I mean, remember, Nathan Blake started as a left back, didn't he? He made his debut as a left back at Bristol Rovers and ended up playing up front.
Yeah.
I saw him centre half alongside Jason Perry at Walsall away. It was fantastic.
I remember the run from one end of the pitch to the other. Yeah, I remember that.
What about him? He was playing with such a attitude, I tell you who we have in this nightmare from Man City. What was is it? Oh, I can't think of his name. The big striker, the big centre half, who was taken off at half time from some terrible back passes. I can't think of his name. Foe, was it or?
Osho.
Pardon? Yes, Osho. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. I've kind of forgotten about him. He's just gone up the picture since, hasn't he?
Well, he was dreadful. He made such a
yeah.
I stood up at one point and shouted at him from 50 yards away, "Do you know how long I've been coming down here?" And people around me laughed.
The answer would have been no. Really.
I felt he deserved more than that from his contribution to my afternoon.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say, to use a famous Maverick phrase, keep the faith. We got to believe that BBM wouldn't have brought in a terrible player. There must be a player in there.
There must be a player. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's made mistakes and he's moved him out of the picture. So fair enough.
He's had a nightmare 3 games at home, hasn't
he?
Yeah,
he did. Yeah.
Yeah. Scored,
and it's kind of got lackadaisical style, hasn't he? When he makes a mistake, it's like
it's like that youngster he took off after half an hour who was booked. And
there's a player. Magnifico. Yeah.
And this is why Bacon is underrated, because Bacon always comes in and picks up the pieces from all these nightmares.
Yeah. He's a rock solid 7 or 8 at just about every game, isn't he? He's a solid, reliable player. Let's just quickly talk a little bit about Northampton, because getting towards the end of the time. Northampton away, Steve. I'm sure you've been there a few times, to the least. Any thoughts on this one?
I think it's a game we should be winning. We should be winning it comfortably. We'll obviously come on to the scores.
We said that about Blackpool, didn't we?
Well, we did, but then Blackpool had a new manager bounce, which
on
Saturday. In fact, we've been a bit unlucky on the new manager bounces, haven't we? Fairly recently, with the Peterborough Cup game and then Black. So I think hopefully we can get back to winning ways away from home. I'd be disappointed not to. Yes, I've been there several times. I went to their old ground several times with the cricket ground next to it as well. And then I've been to the new ground on several occasions as well. So looking forward to reacquainting myself with a trip to Sixfields on Saturday.
Richard?
Well, I've been there a few times as well. Nothing memorable, to be honest. Apart from one win on a Friday night, I think that was about it. But I think we'll nick it on Saturday. I think we'll grind out a result, because they're not pulling up any trees. They're struggling a bit down the bottom end of the table, aren't they?
Yeah,
I think we'll win on Saturday.
If we win on Saturday, of course, we're in the picture already. But a good result on the weekend. We're knocking on the door again. David, any thoughts on Northampton?
No.
Spoken like a true sports journalist.
An inspiring game. 5 of our players are on international duty with the first team. Heaven knows how many under 21s. It's not the San Siro. I've been to Sixfields. 0-0.
Fair enough. Well, good luck to Wales for tomorrow, and at least none of us are saying City are going to lose, which is good news. And thanks for a good show. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes.